Our jobs is to understand the system and then make changes that make it better or give us better outcomes. Intercom was funnily born out of this sort of thinking of like, hey, it's really hard to see and understand and talk to your users, you know.
I'm Charity Majors, CTO and co-founder at Honeycomb. Darragh, why don't you introduce yourself briefly?
Hey, thanks for that. I'm Darragh, CTO at Finn, formerly Intercom, here for like as long as I can remember, basically, since 14 and odd years ago. So been part of the wild journey all along, more or less.
I first noticed you guys, like Honeycomb, you were a few years ahead of us. Uh, in 2017, 2018 is when I started reading your writing, and shipping is your company's heartbeat. It's so visceral, and it landed with, that's when I started paying attention to your engineering culture, but I've always been a big fan.
Fun. Yeah, likewise.
In the second edition of Observability Engineering, you wrote us a letter from the CTO, which talked about your advice to software engineering organizations on how to be great. And in the letter, you said, do a thing, learn something, do the next thing. That is a core function of a software team. Pair it with vision and product judgment, and you can build great products fast. Tell us about this philosophy. What does this look like in practice, and what role does observability play in that learning loop at Finn?
That simple loop is how I think about our jobs. It's like understand a problem, solve it quickly, figure out did you actually solve it, rinse and repeat. I look at this at different levels of like from bits and bytes and low level stuff right up to customers and revenue. And it's all the same thing. It's like our jobs is to understand the system and then make changes that make it better or give us better outcomes. Intercom was funnily born out of this sort of thinking of like, hey, it's really hard to see and understand and talk to your users. You know, the founding team at Intercom were heavily engineering discipline, but really fundamentally design or product discipline. And that was their itch to scratch. It's like, hey, it's really hard to actually see and connect to your user base. Like this sort of software thing is brilliant, but there's a really harsh abstraction layer between your customers. So the product was born out of understanding that part, but it's all the same, right? The more you orientate yourself around understanding the system, making changes, having a feedback loop to see has the change got you what you want. My personal motivation here, like driving forces, sort of seeing how software was built in different places and how much process went into what are we going to build and how are we going to build it on a big plan. And then it's only at the point when you ship it to a customer that you actually see, hey, was the plan
Yeah.
anyway, right? Whatever. So I was heavily drawn to this idea of maybe invest less time about trying to predict the future and just go do a thing and learn. Uh,
Yes.
Hopefully, most companies are similar in some respect, like that core framework of like, hey, what do we care about and how do we improve it? And I think what's maybe a little bit different is just how much that's been entrenched in our DNA and like trying to,
Yeah.
as much as possible, weed out all of the things that get in the way of, um, you know, try a thing, learn a thing.
That core analysis loop. I think I just heard you say, though, is that Intercom or Fin is you're building observability. The product itself is observability for companies' businesses in a way.
Intercom's origin story has been told a bunch of times, and it was like
Yeah.
this parallel between hey, we go to their favorite coffee shop at the time, and like the store owner and staff would like get to know them and their preferences and build a
Yeah.
relationship. The product they were running at the time exceptional, an error tracking service wasn't exactly exceptional in itself at times. It would have a lot of outages, and they were like, "Damn it, this is painful. We need to talk to our customers. We've no idea who they are, who
Yeah.
is impacted."
Yeah.
That was a version of the origin story where like, hey, we really need better
Yeah.
tools to understand usage, who the customers
Yeah.
are, how important they are to us.
It was while I was writing the book that I realized, we talk about how companies they're constrained by their learning speed, and they tend to accrue these socio-technical debts over time. And that learning speed, it is observability that creates the feedback loop. It's it if you because if you don't look, there's no loop. You're just doing things and things are happening, but there's no loop. It is
Yeah.
observability that creates that loop. And that had never occurred to me before until started writing it, and I was like, so I think it's brilliant in its simplicity, and I think you're very generous in saying, oh, I think a lot of companies, like, no, I think a lot of companies do not see it that simply, and I think that's to their detriment. So you set a public goal to 2x R&D productivity, and you wrote a post. Gosh, time flies. Was it April or May where you said that you thought you were closer to 3x now? What
Yeah.
gave you the confidence to commit to that publicly? Were there ever moments that you doubted it? What advice would you give to engineering teams who are trying to scale their own AI applications and their culture and teams along with them?
It's important to state 2x was never the ambition or the end state. It was more like, hey, we got to get started. When you name things or put words behind them, you run the risk of being misunderstood. But really, for me, it's like a mindset of continual acceleration. The world is different. The tools we have and how we approach our work is hopefully evolving to that new world. My rough mental model is continual doubling. We all
Yeah,
know what happens when you keep doing that. We should be thinking our ceiling is 100x what it is today, not 3
yeah,
or 4x. So
yeah,
we're not done. It's still messy as hell. Why did I publicly talk about it? It's one way to reinforce your team that you're serious. You're putting your neck on the line a little bit. Also, I think trying to provoke a little bit more of dialogue in the industry in general, so that, you know, maybe inspire others, but also encourage others to be similarly transparent, so that we have a sense of like, hey, what can we learn from others, or where are we falling behind, etc. It's the sort of superficial thing why people might have commented on the time was like, oh, the writing the code part isn't the bottleneck or whatever. And like,
yeah,
I can buy that argument, even though we also know that we spend a lot of time writing code. And if you compare it to today, where what you can achieve in minutes of prompting and millions of tokens is phenomenal.
yeah,
I think important thing about systems is when you move one bottleneck, the whole system responds in a way. So it's not, yes, you can you
yeah,
change the cost of writing code, but that now enables you to approach the whole thing differently. So
yeah.
the the whole system can move around.
The 2x thing, I found the same thing. If I actually want people internally to pay attention to something I say it outside.
Yeah, it's kind of a funny leadership thing or whatever. Like I think there's a lot of there's probably a couple of CEOs who act that way, and maybe it's a bit disruptive internally, but I think it can be quite inspiring to people saying what
Yeah.
they actually believe rather than wrapping it in what they're meant to say or filtering it or whatever.
I thought that the 2x thing was low key genius, like, because it's like you say, it's not the ceiling, it's the floor. But the way you put it was like, look, we think models are going to keep getting better and everything. Given just the tools we have today, we should be able to double our productivity if we just make it a goal. We put that in front of our team, which was almost exactly a year ago. Um, and it's just inarguable. Yes, you're right. We should be able to double. A- and then the question of, well, is productivity the same thing as effects? Like, no, they aren't. But you have to master the tools before you can then. You have to learn how to use them in a somewhat open-ended way before you can then decide where not to use them or where the definition of what. I think that if there's one thing that I'm really excited about with the advent of AI, it is forcing us to ask ourselves, what does better mean? What does good look like? What does great mean? What would exceptional look like? Because we're no longer constrained by what we were constrained by, and it's all the questions have to be re-asked. You've gone from humans reviewing every PR to a meaningful share shipping with no human reviewer at all. What built that trust with you to enough to automate it, and how does observability fit into that trust?
When you change one part of the system, other bottlenecks
Yeah,
emerge, etc. Everyone's facing this. It's like, oh, damn it. All of our time is now stuck on reviewing code. We probably each came to this realization or acceptance on different timelines, but um, the pattern in our industry has always been that given sufficient time and energy of applying AI to like a task that perhaps humans might want to do, um, it's feels almost inevitable that it can surpass what a human can do, whether that's input or all these benchmarks that are. AI models are getting trained.
Benchmarkable, yes.
So that's in the dimension of one single task. And then on top of that, you've got bounded capacity virtually. You're not human scale limited. There's brilliant things that humans bring to the picture, but our kind of mental model specifically for review was how can we bring the best parts of our best people to every review, not just
Yeah,
the minimum bar of, hey, I need one person who's trustworthy to have a look here, but like
yeah,
you can, everyone in their team, they're like, who's the best to have a look at this from a security point of view or performance point of view, or like a, you know, name your framework point of view. And what if you had all of those people on their best day with infinite patience looking at your code? So that's kind of the vision here. And obviously, you could never do that before. You get nothing done, but you can do it now. Our approach was to actually try to mine and harvest for the best type of feedback from our best people on each dimension and to try to build a system that could reliably do that.
yeah.
Um, your question of observability, Kesha and others have gone into a bunch of depth here, but at a high level, like measurement was so core to the approach to this problem solving. We had this intuition that, hey, if the review quality is below some threshold, very quickly people will tune out of it. So we had a high bar we needed to hit for feeling like we can put this in front of people. We didn't want to lose trust in the start. And then on every kind of dimension, then observability is important to help you like spot the places you've got it wrong and continue to tune the system right down to, hey, this is too slow or too expensive, or what happens when it goes wrong and now all of a sudden people's workflow is interrupted.
It has always mystified me how many people are protesting using AI for code review because I feel like of all the things, and I'm very pro-human. I think there are things that AIs will. I Evolution is a crafty beast, and I would be very surprised if AI can approximate human abilities in all areas. But when it comes to validation,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I think that's an AI's job all the way.
Taking something that we know how to do and
Yes,
would rather deploy our energy and creativity in novel areas,
yes,
just the sort of automation mindset of like, hey, I'm going to do this a few times to get really good at it, but afterwards I don't want to do it again. Um,
yeah.
Review is a place there. And I'm sure there's going to be like problems and hurdles. Well, everything gets reviewed, about half gets approved. And I don't know what it takes to get that up to like 99% or whatever, but it's
Yeah,
really, really helping us. And it frees
yeah.
up so much time to spend elsewhere, which is the fun part.
Reviews are better than they were before. That's the other, like, it's just win-win. It's
I think people get caught up, understandably, on the kind of compliance side and the
yeah.
fear of risk. And also, a bunch of the just this acceleration thing in general exposes other strengths or weaknesses in your overall system. Not all companies are comfortable to ship incredibly fast, or
Mhm.
their CI systems aren't set up to overnight virtually 4x in terms of like
A
throughput or
lot of
whatever. All the things
companies
break.
a lot of companies aren't even comfortable deploying on Fridays in
That's
2026.
true.
It's a systems problem, and it's an exciting time to be an engineer, for sure. Well, how has the role of engineer shifted for you day to day, and what do you think engineers and engineering leaders should be prioritizing in their own skills right now?
For better or worse, I'm not as hands on as I was 5 years ago, 10 years ago. However, even for me, this has been like created opportunities where I can get way more hands on and want to and can have some kind of impact doing so. My job isn't to contribute as much as other engineers directly, but I think it's really important in this time of change for all leaders to get more hands on. You're
Yeah,
just default getting left behind if you don't recalibrate to the world we live
yeah,
in now. I'd encourage all leaders to do that. People I see having the most fun and most impact are those who are embracing this with an open mind and curiosity. I think humans are self limiting in so many ways. They're not
yeah,
self limiting by thinking, oh, I'm about at the peak of what's possible here. They're always thinking, well, only if we could do X or change Y, that would enable me to have this type of impact or whatever. It's quite interesting, the makeup of our org. We've got some incredible ML AI specialists, like I want to say about 15-20% of the team. Then we've got the rest of us, more generalist product engineer type, or a set of different specialities there. And the world that we're building for has changed. We're solving problems with AI. That's ultimately where the puck has moved to. I think it's valuable and worthwhile, even if you're maybe on the periphery, to just understand the way in which the products or software you're building is different. I don't expect or believe everyone will fast track to like a PhD in machine learning. But it's always served people well to understand adjacencies. And
Sure.
that's the most important or most relevant adjacency for all of us right now.
I found it helpful to think of software as software, but you've got determinism and non-determinism, and each have their own domain, depths and I think some of the interesting places over the next year are just going to be uh, what emerges at the seams, right?
Yeah.
When do we use one? When do we use the other? When do we use non-deterministic software to generate deterministic software to,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, so it's just an exciting time. Darragh, thank you so much. I'm so proud to have you as our first guest.
I'm honored. Very, very much so. Great to chat.